Today's Morning First Alert Weather Show is brought to you by Sam Bernstein Law.
Well, good Tuesday morning, Mid-Michigan. I'm First Alert meteorologist Matthew Mondro here with your First Alert Weather Show, taking a look at our forecast as we go into the middle of the week and as we are tracking some rain that comes up a little bit later this week on Thursday as well. So the middle of the week, at least for now, again, that's still going to be pretty quiet. And Thursday, with that rainfall, a lot of that does fall during the afternoon and the evening. So we still do have some time here through the middle of the week before we end up seeing that system arriving. Let me take you out here to I-75 in Flint Township at Miller Road right now, though, just to show you how quiet these conditions are currently. And as we go throughout the remainder of today, we'll just have a calm wind, eventually highs up to about 41 by this afternoon. So it should be a little bit warmer than yesterday. I'll say it may not totally feel like that, only just because we won't exactly have as much sun as we had yesterday. In fact, this morning we've seen this cloud coverage building up, and for many areas now it's not quite as bright as it was earlier. Flint, actually, so this was one of the cameras, we actually still had a decent amount of blue sky a little bit earlier, but now we're starting to see that cloud coverage building in. But let me take you over to the forecast as well, just to first alert you to a couple of changes first that we've made. So with this, we have taken that chance of rain off of today and tomorrow. Now in the first place, both of those chances were pretty small. We only had a 10% for today and then a 20% for tomorrow. You see those rain chances really starting to go up by Thursday, Friday, and then into Saturday as well. Now the system on Thursday, again, that's mostly during the afternoon and the evening, and then the system that we have from Friday into Saturday, that mainly starts up on Friday evening. So during the day Friday, leading up to that, we actually do have a period of drier weather before that next system ends up moving in as we go into Friday evening and night, and then also for your Saturday. So let's take a look at the hour by hour here. So this is at about 5 in the morning on Thursday. So right as that system is starting to approach us. Now with this here, you actually do notice a little bit of drizzle coming in on the hour by hour. So that's indicated by some of the spotty precipitation that you're seeing around Midland, Bay City, and Saginaw. The other thing with this too, and it is indicating it here with that pink shading, is that it could be freezing drizzle. It depends really on how cold we get on Thursday morning. That's going to be the deciding factor here. Right now we have a low of 33 on Thursday morning. So I will say with this, I actually think the hour by hour is actually slightly overdoing what it's showing there for some of that freezing drizzle. No doubt I think we'll have some drizzle on Thursday morning, but again, it's just going to be a question of how cold we end up getting. If we fall below 32, that's where we could see a little bit of a light glazing or kind of that mist that then freezes to cars and other elevated surfaces. But even if we do see that, I don't think it'll last very long, because by lunchtime and the afternoon, those temps warming up, we just have more of a steady rain taking over, and these rain showers will continue on for the rest of the evening and as we go into Thursday night. Let me actually back up the hour by hour to about 5 or even 6 o'clock there in the evening on Thursday. So first, again, too, just letting you know about that potential, at least again, keyword potential, for some isolated freezing drizzle on Thursday morning. Just want to make you aware of that, but that's something we'll be keeping an eye on. But with the rain for the afternoon and the evening, if you do have any errands that you're running after work, if your students have any after-school sports or activities that go a bit later as well, say if they go up to about 5 or 6 o'clock, during that time, we are going to end up seeing some rain moving through. So just bear that in mind, that those roads will be a bit wet. And then again, the rain just continues on for the rest of the evening, starts to wind down later on Thursday night. Now this right here is still a bit of an early look at some of these rain totals too, but looks like about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch from the system for Thursday. We could have some locally higher totals, especially towards some of the southwestern areas like Owasso or Ithaca or Alma, even around Chesaning, or you could even say Breckenridge as well. So those are some of the spots we could have some of the locally higher rainfall totals, but in general, I'd say about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch for the system. And really a lot of us should be closer to that 1/4 inch mark. So just kind of a nice refreshing rain. It'll actually help to rinse off some of the salt that we still have out there on the roadways right now. So speaking of that, if you were maybe looking to wash the car, today and tomorrow actually wouldn't be too bad of days, at least to get the salt off the car for now. And then that car wash will last up until Thursday, and then Thursday's rain, and then especially more of that rain Friday evening into Saturday will help to rinse off those roads a little bit more. So kind of starting to feel actually a bit more like spring or a bit like March. And yesterday too was a beautiful day with all that sunshine as well. Again, today not expecting to see quite as much sun, but it is still going to be a calm and a pretty comfortable day overall, especially for this time of year. But we did have that eclipse earlier this morning. We'll talk a little bit more about that right after this break coming up, and we'll also talk about those temperatures in the long range too. So that'll be, again, right after the break. All right, welcome back from that break. So earlier this morning, I hope you were maybe able to catch it if you were up early enough and catching it just in time before the clouds moved in too. We did have that total lunar eclipse. Always cool to see the lunar eclipse just because the moon will get that sort of red or orange, kind of that rust color to it. So always cool to see, but it definitely was a race against the clouds earlier this morning. And we were able to catch just a little bit of that eclipse before that cloud coverage really started moving in from the west. But here's a recap of the timeline of that eclipse from earlier this morning. So the partial eclipse started at 4:50. So the partial eclipse, that's when the moon is starting to move behind the Earth's shadow. The umbra, so the penumbra is just the Earth's partial shadow, but the partial eclipse is when it's actually starting to move behind the full shadow of the Earth, and then eventually that total eclipse when it's completely behind the shadow of the Earth. That was starting at 6:04 this morning. It was about 5:45 when we lost sight of the moon this morning with the clouds coming in. So we were tracking that on our Mount Pleasant camera. We were also tracking that on our US 10 camera, which is right near Mackinac Road and the Fabiano Brothers building. So we were able to track it for a little bit, but certainly weren't able to stick with it for the entire morning. But again, always cool to see it, just something kind of neat to look at. Let me show you this here. So this is a snapshot that I have for you from earlier this morning. This was from our camera in Mount Pleasant on CMU's campus, and this picture is from about 5:30 this morning, so about 15 minutes before we lost sight of the moon. Kind of cool there. You can actually see the clouds. Those were some thin, higher level clouds starting to move in, but we were pretty clearly able to see that eclipse starting, so that's still technically the partial eclipse there, and then we had that cloud coverage out in front of it. So again, that was about 10-15 minutes before we lost sight of it, but just always a pretty cool sight to see when that eclipse happens. And going back over to the timeline real quick too, you can see how that next total lunar eclipse won't occur until June 26th of 2029. So it will be a few years. However, we do have a couple of partial eclipses at least, or eclipses in the time from now to then. So, but at least for that total eclipse, we'll have to wait a little bit longer. But let me go back over to our 7-day forecast as well, just to show you some of those temperatures in the long term. So we are going to be tracking some of these warmer temps, especially by the end of this week and the upcoming weekend. And even for tomorrow, 50 degrees. Tomorrow should actually feel pretty mild with those partly cloudy skies, and it will be pretty calm like today. And then once we go into Thursday, we're back down to 41 with that rain, and then we're right back to 55 on Friday. Then we have 61 on Saturday, then 56 on Sunday. So we have officially upgraded those high temps to reach the 60s on Saturday. We've seen some pretty good agreement with that system coming in. We'll have the rainfall with it, but we will have a pretty decent southwesterly flow, so that helps to bring that mild air right into our area. So the weekend is warmer. If you think 50 tomorrow is going to be warm, it'll be even warmer than that by the weekend. But again, mid to upper 50s Friday through Sunday, 61 on Saturday. By Monday next week, we're falling back down to 49 degrees, which no doubt that's still pretty mild, pretty close to 50 degrees. Some of the long term, though, has been suggesting that sometime around the middle or end of next week, we'll start to see these temperatures cooling back down again, possibly even back to the 30s. So kind of in the same way that last week, we were seeing the warm up for this week in the long-term data. Now, this week, we're seeing in the long-term data for next week that cool down. So we're very much into that transitionary time of year, just where we're going back and forth between the colder weather and the warmer weather. Always happens at this time of year. So if you like the warm weather and you're ready for spring, you'll definitely just have to take advantage of what we have ahead of us for the rest of this week and the weekend in regard to these temps. But of course, with it being March, eventually there comes a point where the warmer weather will win out permanently for the rest of the season after that, but it just doesn't look like this warm up that we have right now is going to be that warm up that sticks with us permanently. So this will be sticking around for about a week, maybe even say up to about 8 or 9 days, but at least definitely not going to be quite as cold as last week, nowhere near as cold as it was even a handful of weeks ago as well. But really, that's the main takeaway of the forecast here. So I'll show you that 7-day one last time too. Dry for now, today and tomorrow. Then we have the rain coming in on Thursday, and then that second round of rain Friday evening into Saturday. So we're still holding off on that wet weather for now. If you see at least a sprinkle today, it's possible, but again, extremely low chance with that. So really more notable wet weather doesn't come in until Thursday, and then we'll be sticking with these mild temperatures for now. Well, that's all we have for you in the First Alert Weather Show this morning, so be sure to tune in at noon today on air on TV5. First Alert meteorologist Diane Phillips will be there with another look at the forecast too, and then she'll also have another look here on the First Alert Weather Show on all these same live stream channels at 2 o'clock today. So be sure to tune into her coming up later on, but I hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday and enjoy the rest of your morning as well.